So bring you up to speed with international coronavirus news. Now, India is getting dangerously close to recording 100,000 new COVID-19 infections per day. Let's find out what's happened. Let's head over to our India correspondent, Rebecca Bundhun, joining us live now. Hello to you, Rebecca. It's one of the largest population groups in the country over in India. Why are you heading towards 100,000? What's been happening?
Absolutely. These figures are really quite worrying, seeing how large those numbers are. That's a global record daily surge in terms of the numbers of confirmed cases. And as you mentioned, of course, one of the factors is the large population. India has 1.3 billion people in its population, and many of those people in cities like Mumbai do live in very overcrowded slum areas where social distancing is very, very difficult, and that's been a factor in this rise in the number of cases. Also, of course, India has been increasing its testing, and the government has said that this is a significant factor in terms of the rising numbers of cases. But India's total numbers now are more than 4.6 million. That puts it just only behind the US in terms of total numbers of infections, and they're continuing to rise at this alarming pace. And the worry is now that the virus has spread from major cities like Mumbai to New Delhi. It's going into the smaller towns and rural areas, the villages, where their healthcare system and infrastructure is even weaker than the cities. So it can be very difficult for people in those parts of the country to get access to testing, or if they need any critical healthcare at hospitals, they often are very, very far from the nearest hospital. So that's a major challenge.
It is. You mentioned 4.6 million cases in India. I'm looking at the numbers, Rebecca. They may be slightly out of date, give or day or two, but the recovery rate, 3.62 million people having recovered. So there is at least that good news that India can work off of. Just talk to me about lockdown. You mentioned social distancing. As we all know by now, social distancing is one part of this. What does the lockdown look like in India at the moment? And is there talk, Rebecca, of perhaps pushing that up to a much more stringent level of lockdown?
Well, actually, India, the Indian government in particular, has been really relaxing the lockdown very steadily over the past few months and few weeks, despite the surge in the number of cases that we're seeing. What happened in March was when India introduced its nationwide lockdown, which is one of the strictest in the world. That pushed a lot of people out of work. A lot of businesses essentially shut down their operations for several weeks or even months because of the lockdown. Since then, the government has been trying to allow things to open up more. We've seen shopping malls reopen. A lot of businesses have reopened. People have gone back to the offices, although there are often limited numbers in those offices. And even this week, on Monday, despite having seen the continued surge in the number of cases, the government allowed metro services to resume, and several cities in India did go ahead with resuming their metro services, although Mumbai decided not to open up its metro rail service because of the large numbers of cases that we're seeing. But the strategy of the government has really been to relax lockdown restrictions, to try to get people back into work, to try to revive the economy, which has been incredibly hard hit by the virus and those lockdown restrictions. So the government's approach is really to try to balance this conundrum of lives versus livelihoods. And at the moment for India, really the focus is on trying to get people to learn to live with the virus and try to follow precautions, which sadly in many cases people are not doing. For example, in Mumbai, people should be wearing masks, but often on the streets you see people who are very relaxed and they're not wearing masks and so on. And doctors say that one of the factors behind this could be actually the low fatality rate, the high recovery rate they're seeing in the country, that people have just become very, very relaxed about the virus, and this could in fact be quite dangerous for the country as we continue to see these rising numbers.
Yeah, that's the worry as well. As soon as the recovery rates start going up, I see India is 77%. People start believing the coronavirus is no longer an issue. Rebecca, I'm going to say thank you for the moment in joining us. India correspondent Rebecca Bundhun. Near 100,000 new daily cases in that country of COVID-19.